Galileo Galilei was born in Pisa, Italy on February 15, 1564. He was born into a family of 7 children, in which he was the oldest. At age 11, Galileo had been sent to study in a Jesuit monastery, and as Galileo studied there, he felt more compelled to become a monk. When his father had heard of the news, he withdrew Galileo from the monastery since he preferred Galileo to go into the medical field. In 1581, Galileo entered the University of Pisa to study medicine. While studying throughout for 3 years, one day Galileo was at a cathedral and noticed a large lamp swinging overhead. Curious to see how long each swing was, he used his pulse to time and noticed something that no one else had. He realized that each time period for big and small swings were the same. He called this the law of the pendulum, which granted him immediate popularity throughout the science and math community. As Galileo studied on, he began to become bored with the university, and eventually his grades began to plummet. Eventually, Galileo decided to leave the university for a better place in the mathematics world. To make a living, he tutored students in mathematics. He began experiments that could help him gain recognition until it became his life's ambition, a mathematics position at a major university. Eventually, it was literature, not math, that actually helped him gain fame. He had written the book Dante's Inferno, which spoke much about hell and the devil and explained how each looked. People were so impressed that they decided to give him a 3-year appointment to the University of Pisa. This was the same university that he dropped out of 3 years before. A little later on, Galileo had started to doubt the laws of Aristotle. He thought all objects might have the same speed in which they hit the ground, regardless of how heavy either one was. He tested this by throwing 2 differently weighted objects over the side of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. When they fell, both hit the ground at the same time, and thus proved that Aristotle was wrong. Many years later, after proving Aristotle wrong, he was able to take a vacation to Venice in 1609 and discovered something called a spyglass. It was able to make distant things very near. He was unable at the time to get the patent for it since it was high of use to Holland's military. Only after hearing about it, he attempted to build one on his own, and within 24 hours, he was able to create a 3-power telescope. He eventually created a 10-power telescope and presented it to the Venetian Senate, who was very impressed. They immediately praised him and gave him a higher salary. The telescope was actually what led to Galileo's final amazing discovery. As Galileo looked at the moon and Jupiter, he noticed that they seemed to have an orbital, and eventually began to build a better telescope to find out with. With his 30-power telescope, he resolved that the Earth actually revolved around the Sun and not the other way around. The Christian community was shocked and threatened heresy on Galileo since the Bible had stated otherwise. He was brought to court, and eventually they had decided that he would be put under house arrest for the rest of his life. This was actually considered very lucky since other people accused for heresy usually were burned to death. Even though Galileo was unappreciated for his hypothesis of the Earth rotating around the Sun, he is now very appreciated throughout the mathematical and astronomy fields for bringing light to many areas which people could not understand.